always talking about why they can't do what they love because it doesn't make any money. I get this very often, and I'd really like to talk about that today. Everybody makes that mistake. Everybody, in one way or another, no matter how much they seem to know about it, they still all say the same thing. But I'd like to make something very clear. Number one, when people say these things to me, one of these days I'm going to figure out what they're really thinking. When somebody says, I'd love to travel the world, but you can't make any money that way. And when somebody says, I'd love to write plays, but I can't quit my job and live in an attic, I've got to support my family. And I feel like, saying, of course it doesn't make money. There's a couple of things you have to think about when you talk about what you love and making money. The first thing is this. If you have kids, they cost money. You don't rent them out. You don't say, I'm going to have some kids. I would have kids, but that doesn't make any money. You don't say, I'd love to grow a garden, but you can't make any money doing that. All they say, when people say that, they talk about art, or they talk about making a movie, or they talk about travel, and they just assume it doesn't make money. First of all, everything makes money if you want to make money. Somebody's making money. Some people do rent out their kids. I just don't think you want to do that. But first think about this one important point. The reason we earn money is so that we can buy things and do things we love. We don't expect the things we love to make money. Think about that for a while. I know most of us have it in our head that you're supposed to somehow find what you really love and what you really have a passion for and get rich doing it. And I'd just like to know how those two got caught together. So, okay, so let's get to the practical end. Supposing you want to write poetry. You will not make money at poetry. Let's keep it real simple. Homer didn't even make money at poetry. He might have gotten a couple of free sandwiches and that was about it. Poetry doesn't make money. But if you're a poet, you have to write poetry anyway. Well, how will you live? You'll live any way you live anytime. Whatever you do to pay your rent now, you'll do it when you write poetry. If you honestly think you're going to stop and write poetry full time, that means you haven't really tried it. You're just throwing something at me because you think it's unanswerable. The two most famous poets in America both worked. William Carlos Williams was a physician. He loved his work, and he wrote amazing poetry. The second American poet was Wallace Stevens. He worked in the insurance business, and he hated every minute of it, but he wrote great poetry anyway. So what are you supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to get what I call a good enough job. That's one way to do it. Do what you love on your own time. Get a good enough job, which means a job that doesn't eat your guts out. You don't have to get drunk every night when you come home or work all night to get ready for the next day. It leaves you time. It pays your rent. It doesn't aggravate you. It's not toxic in any way. It's a good enough job is a job about which you can only really say it's not enough. If this is all I get for this life, this is not enough. That's a very good job. And you should call it your private subsidy to the arts, because you're paying for the right to do what you love on your own. And you say you want to do it all the time, that means you're not a poet. No poet can write all the time. Poetry is so intense that anybody who does it all the time doesn't talk to anybody or act normal. It's just too intense. So that's true of writing plays, and that's true of writing everything. Don't even think about the fact that you want to do it 24 hours a day. Well, I would like to paint, but I have my family to think about. I come home after work, and I know I can't give up my job, but I hate to go lock myself away and paint in the evenings or on the weekends when I want to be with my family. Good. Set up your easel in the living room where you all watch TV, right? Get everything ready. If you paint in oil, put your brushes in water, then you just have to wipe them off. They'll be nice and ready. Keep a palette of oil stuff ready underneath some saran wrap. And when the commercials come on, just stand up and start painting your masterpiece behind the couch. And when the show comes on again. If you want to stop, you can sit down. And if you don't want to stop, you can paint. And if you want to paint and watch, you can do that too. You can do whatever you want. The point is, we all seem to live in this either-or world, and I don't know where it's coming from, because you don't live your life that way with anything else. I'd like to eat breakfast, but then I wouldn't get to eat lunch. Nobody says that. You know, I'd like to go to school, but then what else would I do? I don't know. What else you would do? You would do what else you do after school, or when you quit school and get a job, or in the summers if you're a teacher. It's just not a real issue. And so I want you to think about that. The next time you start saying, why can't I do what I love? I need money for it. You don't need money. Money is rarely sufficient, and it's rarely necessary. Believe it or not. I could tell you a few stories. Well, I didn't look at my watch, so maybe I got time to tell you one story. There was a woman in a workshop I did, and she wanted to take her camera and travel around the world, around the country actually, in backwoods places, taking pictures of families, parents and kids who lived off the main track. And her obstacle was she didn't have any money, and she needed money. She didn't need a job, she just needed money. She needed money to live on and eat and stuff, but her needs were small. She needed money to buy a truck and to buy gas and to find a place to sleep and to travel around. She had cameras. She knew how to take pictures. And I had an idea party for her. I'll be talking about those a lot. An idea party is simply when you have a crowd of people. The more people you have, the better ideas, the more amazing things happen. And I said, does anybody have any ideas? This was in Connecticut. No, this was in Boston. And somebody stood up and said, there were a few ideas that came up that were kind of good. Somebody had a truck she was going to give her, an old truck. And someone stood up and said, I work for a bank, and we're always looking for projects exactly like this. And I'd like you to talk to the bank manager who's in charge of this sort of thing, and I think we can finance you. And they actually did it, and she actually went on that tour. So, you know, isolation is the dream killer. That's the obstacle, isolation. When you sit alone and think about why you can't do things, you can come up with some pretty unthought out reasons. But when you've got a lot of people around, I think I'm going to talk about that in my next video too. I would like you to leave your comments below if you have any questions, or you want to argue with me. I'd love to argue. Or if you want to, you know, just say anything. And please subscribe. And don't be shy about coming over to my bulletin board. I'll leave the link right below. It's at boards.barbarashare.com. Easy to find. Then you have to scroll down really far to find Refuse to Choose. That's where the scanner comments are going. And I'm there all the time now. So you should go there and can have a talk. There's some very smart people over there, and they're all scanners. And that's what you want. You want to meet them. And also, if you would like to get on my mailing list, I don't send out newsletters very often. Too lazy. I write them all myself. They certainly don't come out on a regular basis. To send anything out, I am a scanner too, and to send anything out on a regular basis is like living hell to me, so I wouldn't do it. But when I suddenly get an impulse to do some telephone conference calls, they're really good, and you might want to be in on them. So go to barbarsclub.com, scroll down, leave your email address, and look in your inbox and see if I've sent you something, because I usually don't give you enough time. So you want to look at it right away so you can say yes or no. And you don't have to come to me 3 days later and say, why didn't you give me more notice? I don't know why I didn't give you more notice. I just never do. So, and I'm sorry. Now that I've turned 80, I'm going to use that for an excuse, but I've always done this. So, okay, see you later.